Let's talk about, first, I don't even know where to begin. Let's talk about masking. New York State and other states. New York, I saw you had a post recently about the insanity of now masking 2-year-olds. Abby, my assistant, she's with me every day. She's in Connecticut. She has a 3-year-old daughter. She has to have a mask across her face all day long. 3 years old. On and on it goes. And you were calling attention to this sad video of this little 2-year-old boy who had asthma, had special needs on a plane, getting booted off the plane. And you were making the point, if you see this, you know you are dealing with America, because we are the only country doing the madness of hurting our little ones. I think we have the video by making them do this nonsense. Stand by. Let's watch a piece of it. Oh, it's maddening.
It's cruel. It's really cruel. No other country is doing this, and we continue to do things like this. And I don't understand why more Americans aren't outraged.
Is it that they're not seeing it? You know, I think about Pete Buttigieg. I'm sure he's sitting in his nice apartment, his nice house with his husband. You know, they just adopted a new child. Are they thinking about the torture that little kids like that little boy are going through, who has asthma, who cannot deal with a mask over his face on an airplane? Right. Or is it just rules are rules?
Yeah, you know, I wonder if they all just think they're being safe, which, again, no other country believes that masking 2-year-olds is important. So it's not about safety. And I said this to my kids recently. My kids, I have 11, 8, and 5. They know how I feel about masking. They know that they have to mask in schools, and I think that that's crazy. But I said to them, if I thought that masking would really protect you, and I thought that COVID-19 was dangerous for you, I would make you mask. I would make you wear, a really serious medical mask. I wouldn't have you in a little Batman mask, which is what my boys wear to school. I would make you really do it. And it's only because I looked at the data. I've looked at what the other countries are doing. I've looked at how COVID-19 affects kids, that I don't believe that masking kids is necessary. And I think that we're doing something really crazy and really unique in this country with the masking of small children like this.
Mm-hmm. Right. We don't care. The people who want to lecture us about science don't care at all what the science is when it comes to children and masking, in particular at the primary school level. So can you talk to us for a minute about, because I follow your Twitter feed for information about this all the time. You link to such good articles about other countries and what specifically they're doing differently.
So in a lot of places in Europe, in the UK, in Ireland, in Denmark, in Sweden, in Holland, they never masked kids under 12. That was just not something that they did. Some countries are 11. Iceland, I was recently in Iceland. It was amazing to see a universe of sanity where there's no kids being masked. You're in a supermarket and they have an indoor mask mandate right now, Iceland, because they had a small spike in the summer. And I think that tourism is really important to them. And they felt that American tourists wouldn't come if they didn't implement that mask mandate. So you're in a supermarket and all the adults are masked, but all the kids are just walking around maskless, which I think is the same thing to do. So you have these other countries and you can look at the numbers and they don't have a worse outcome for kids. It isn't something that, like, if they were having poorer outcomes, we'd hear a lot of stories about it. We'd hear like, oh, this London school, had this many kids die because they weren't masking, but we don't see that. And it's, a lot of times people will say, oh, it's really different there. It's rural. Or Iceland, for example, they'll say, oh, well, that's why they're not masking kids, because there's only very few people in Iceland, whatever. But London is London, and London is very comparable to New York. And yet London is doing the same thing for kids, and they never masked kids under 12 in schools or anywhere. And yet we continue to do that. We continue to push these masks. And the way that we mask children is also completely different than the way the grown-ups mask. At this point, everybody understands that wearing masks outside is completely pointless. I mean, Dr. Fauci had a really famous moment where he said, as we've been saying all along, the risk outdoors is very small. Now, of course, they had not been saying that all along, but at least we finally faced the reality that masking outdoors is needless. Kids in New York City, for example, still have to mask during recess. So they have lunch, They put on their mask to go play. They have to stay apart from their friends. So they can't play tag or any game where we get close to each other. And they're masked at the same time. Grown-ups are not doing this. Medical doctors are not doing this. Medical doctors are not going out on their lunch break and pulling up their mask in between bites. They're not wearing a mask after they're done eating. It just isn't something that we're doing. We're doing this uniquely to children. Only kids have to mask like this.
Mm-hmm. It's like we're taking advantage of the reality that they have to listen. They have to listen to their teachers. Mm-hmm. It is cruel. My sons are going through this too. My daughter as well, where they play outside at recess and they play Gaga or these other games where you're really not close to the other kids, and they get screamed at. Get your mask over your nose and over your mouth. And if they don't listen, like if they get caught with the mask below their nose, they get kicked out. You're out of the game. You're done. You're over by yourself. It's like, this is absurd. You're trying to scare my kid, where my husband and I have done our level best for the past 18 months to make sure his level of fear and anxiety stays exactly where it ought to be, which is next to non-existent when it comes to COVID.
And you really can't escape it, is the other thing. So I'm pretty open about the fact that I'm a conservative. And so I would always say local, we should make local decisions, which for me, I live in a very left area, in a very left city, in a very left state. I understand that that my area would probably still choose to mask. But what happens is you have local decisions where it only works. They only let us make local decisions when the left would win it. So, for example, in Florida, Governor DeSantis mandated that schools cannot implement mask mandates. Parents can decide for themselves. And these local school districts, a few of them, decided, no, we're going to implement a mask mandate anyway. And they have this ongoing battle with the governor. But so people will say, well, look, you wanted local control. Here it is, But in New York, we don't have local control. There are school districts in Long Island that wanted to not have masking. And the new governor, Hochul, said, absolutely not. And private schools cannot choose for themselves. Local school districts cannot choose for themselves. It's a statewide mandate. So it's interesting that we can no longer support local rules because it never, ever works in the direction of sanity. It only works when the left wants it.